In the city of Ur, towers gleamed, where idols ruled and drainers dreamed. For Shem's old line through Terah's kin, the promise lived, though faint within. Through Abram's heart a voice was heard, leave your home, obey my word. Go to the land that I will show, where streams of promise gently flow. So Abram rose with Sarah near, and Lot beside with faith and fear. They journeyed on through desert sand, trusting God without a plan. When faith runs thin, still mercy stays. The promise stands through all our days, not built on strength or mortal hand, but grace that calls and helps us stand. Go from your country, your father's side. Follow the promise, the unseen, the guide. I'll bless your name and make it great. Through you all people will find their faith. The stars above, his only guide. Each step a prayer, each mile tried. Yet still he moved where heaven led, where promise called and angels tread. Through Canaan's hills the altars burned, each step a vow, each prayer returned. Though famine came and trials pressed, God's word remained, his oath confessed. Down into Egypt Abram fled, fear took hold but grace was spread. Though faith was frail and truth delayed, God's hand preserved, his plan remained. When faith runs thin, still mercy stays. The promise stands through our days, not built on strength or mortal hand, but grace that calls and helps us stand. Go from your country, your father's side. Follow the promise, the unseen, the guide. I'll bless your name and make it great. To you all people will find their faith. The call still rings across the sand. Come walk with me to promised land. The call still rings across the sand. Come walk with me to promised land. Back from Egypt, their tents were set. Riches grew where tears were met. But strife arose, the herd's too vast, between the kin whose peace had passed. So Abram said, let's not contend. Choose the land where you would win. If you go left, then I'll go right. like Eden's bloom. He settled there, yet Abram stayed where promise shone, and built an altar to the throne. When fear drew near and silence stayed, Abram knelt where shadows swayed. A voice spoke through the desert air, "Fear not, my child, I'm with you there." Kings of the plains rose up in war, cities burned, the captives tore. Lot was taken, bound and gone, but Abram's faith was brave and strong. With servants born beneath his care, he chased the foe through desert air. By night he struck, by dawn he won, and brought back all his brother's son. When fear drew near and silence stayed, Abram knelt where shadows swayed. The voice broke through the desert air, "Fear not, my child, I'm with you there." Faithful in the fight, strong in the test, blessed by the one who gives his rest. From Salem's king came bread and wine, the priest of God, both men divine. This king divine with blessing spoke, Abram tapped the heavens woe. To God most high all praise was due, who gave the foe to his made true. When came the king of Sodom's claim, "Take wealth and goods, but give me names." Yet Abram swore before the Lord, "I'll take no spoil, nor man's reward." Abram fought by faith in the Lord's great name, for God alone deserves the fame. For God alone deserves the fame. When fear drew near and silence stayed, Abram knelt where shadows swayed. A voice broke through the desert air, "Fear not, my child, I'm with you there. Your shield am I, your great reward. My covenant stands, my steadfast word. The air you seek, the child you long, will rise where faith and stars belong. Look at the stars that crown the night. Count them if you can by sight. So shall your seed through ages be, a promise sealed by faith in me. He looked above, his heart was still, believing God, the holy will. No work of man, no mortal claim, but faith alone bore heaven's flame. And righteousness was laid in store for one who dared to trust once more. In Abram's gaze the world was blessed, by grace received, by faith confessed. smoking fire, a blazing light, walk through the dark and claim the night. He swore by love, an immortal vow, to keep his word. Then now and how, from dust to stars, his truth would stand. Redemption seen in every land. Look at the stars that crown the night, each one burning with my light. The promise stands, though ages fade. By blood and grace my word is made. The covenant sealed, the promise sure. Through faith we stand, through love endure. From Abram's trust to Calvary's cross, the covenant of promise never lost. Years rolled on and faith grew warm, the cradle empty, hearts forlorn. Sarai sighed, her hope grown thin. Perhaps the promise works through him. A servant's child, a desperate plan. They try to forge what God began, but mercy wept as heaven knew. Their hearts had strayed from what was true. But the God who sees still calls by name. He finds the lost in desert flame. He speaks to hearts that run astray and turns the night to break of day. A mother's tears beside the spring. She fled the pain, the suffering, but there she heard the angel's voice. Return, my child, in me rejoice, for I have seen your grief and tears. Your son will stand through future years. She named the Lord, who mercy frees, the living one, the God who sees.
Years of silence, faith refined,
the God who sees. Beneath the oaks in Mamre's shade, when noonday's heat on silence lay, three travelers came from fields afar, their faces bright as morning star. Abraham ran, his heart aware, bowed to the ground, prepared to care. Bread was needed, the calf was slain, grace was poured like summer rain. Within the tent the promise spoke, a barren hope long years awoke. Your wife shall bear, her laughter's near, and faith was born through doubt and fear. Behind the veil she softly smiled. Can joy return when age has piled? Yet heaven heard that hidden grin and turned her laughter back again. For is there aught too hard for me? The Lord replied, bold, firm and free. The tent stood still, the air held grace, God's promise shone on every face. Then rose the Lord, his gaze grew deep towards Sodom's plains where shallows creep. Shall I hide what I am to do when justice calls and mercy too? The cry has reached my throne above, the wound of sin has silenced love. I go to see if hearts still bleed, or if the land is lost indeed. And Abraham drew near to say, will you destroy if righteous stay? If fisty dwell, will you forgive? Let justice bend that grace may live. The Lord replied with mercy wide, for 50 souls I will abide. From 40 down, then 10 at last. Each number fell, each moment passed, till silence came, the plea was done. The Lord departed with the sun. He hears the cry, he knows the plea. The judge of all shows mercy. Though fire must fall and night descend, his grace will rise where hearts still bend. The plain grew dim, the night went sighed. Abraham watched his heart reply. He could not see what dawn would bring, but trusted still the righteous King. The plain grew dim, the night went sighed. Abraham watched his heart reply. He could not see what dawn would bring, but trusted still the tall, the stars burn clear, the friend of God still bowed in fear. The oak stood silent, the promise still, yet far below on Sodom's hill, a cry rose up, a bitter plea that reached the throne of majesty. The city glowed beneath the hill, its laughter loud, its heartbeat still. Lot sat within the city's gate, a weary soul who bore the weight. As evening closed, two strangers came, their eyes like stars, their step like flame. He bowed and said, "Come rest, come stay," unknowing dawn would end that day. The cry had reached the throne above, where justice stirred and wounded love. For Abraham's cry for the broken land, God still reaches out his hand. Take your kin, the hour's near. Leave this place, no turning here. The city's sins consume the plain. The sky will break with holy flame. Lot lingered still, his heart unsure. With hands divine, salvation's cure. They grasped his arms and drew him near. Run for your life, the dawn is here. Behind the roar, the heavens burned, the earth gave way, the cities turned. His wife looked back one final breath and turned to stone beneath her death. Lot wept, yet onward still he fled. The fire rose high, the sky burned red. Fire and mercy hand in hand. Justice falls, yet grace will stand. So ashes fall where pride once grew. God remembers the righteous few. Alone he dwelt, his heart undone. The light was lost, but not the sun. For smoke and tears, one truth remained: the Lord is near when all is drained. For even wrath reveals his grace to save one heart hell scorch a place. Lot's eyes looked back through flame and fear. Why me, oh Lord, why mercy here? And heaven whispered soft yet true. For Abraham's sake I rescue you. The days were long, the nights were few, 'cause daughters wept through shadowed days and turned to carnal, broken ways. From fear were born to lies of men. Moabites and Ammonites rose from then. Through sorrow seed, though hearts had strayed, God shaped the path His grace had laid. Fire mercy side by side. The judge is just, yet will provide. Through smoke and storm, his promise shines, redeeming love through shattered times.
In Gerar's land, where strangers roam, Abraham sought a place called home. Fear took root where faith should dwell. A half-truth spun a fragile spell. Their eyes will turn, their hearts will crave. Thus began a tangled thread of fear and faith, by mercy led. The God who sees, the God who spares, who guards the soul through unseen snares. Though truth may fall and faith seems small, his mercy stands. Took her in, not knowing wrong nor bound by sin. But in the night the heavens stirred, a voice like fire the silence heard. You touch what's mine and death shall reign. Return the wife, break guilt and chain. The king awoke in fear and dread. God's warning thunder in his head. The God who warns, the God who pleads, who strikes with truth, yet into
smiled, his heart set free. As Sarah laughed, God's blessing me. Old age and womb once sealed in pain, now life broke forth where none remained. Neighbors gathered, hearts amazed, and all who heard gave God the praise. The God who speaks, the God who stays, who keeps his word through all our days. Though time may test and hope seem gone, his promise lives, his truth goes on. But laughter sang would turn around when Sarah heard a scoffing sound. Cast out the servant and her son, let Isaac remain the promised one. But Abraham bowed, his spirit torn, till God spoke peace that early morn. Let Sarah's word be true indeed, the promise comes from Isaac's seed. So early rose a patriarch's hand, a flask of water, a trembling stand. To Hagar's palm the child was placed, then sent to wander, hearts erased. Through desert sands and blistered skies, her tears fell down and his hope soon dies. The boy lay faint, her cry grew wild. Shall I watch death take my child? But heaven heard an angel near, said, do not fear, the Lord will hear. Lift up the boy, for he shall stand. A nation prayed from barren land. The God who hears, the God who sees, who tends the lost through wrenching pleas. He opens wells where tears have dried, and shelters hearts the world denied. And in those days the king sought peace. He said, swear an oath, let strife now cease. By God's own name let truth remain, that none will harm nor inflict pain. Abraham swore with words sincere, but spoke of a well his men held dear. This well I dug, let oath be known, that God has made this land our own. 7 lands were set apart, a witness sign from faithful heart. The well was named, the deal made clear, the Lord has seen his promise near. At morning light the promise came, and laughter still bears Isaac's name. By wells of oath and promise deep, the God who spoke his word will keep.
When evening fell and shadows long moved softly through the desert calm, the Lord's voice came down to Abraham to test his faith with harsh command. Abraham came the voice so near, a sound that stirred both dread and fear. Take now your son, your promised seed, and walk the path I now decree. To Moriah's hill you'll rise and climb, him down in sacrifice.
At morning's light he rose to go, no questions asked, no protest shown. He saddled hope, he gathered wood, and Isaac walked beside him good. Two servants came to share the road, a silent band beneath their load. For 3 long days they walked as one. The father bowed the trusting son.
Oh God, I trust your perfect name. The one who gives can give again. Though shadows press and mountains rise, I'll walk this path where mercy lies.
And as the mountain rose ahead, he laid the wood on Isaac's stead. He told the servants to stand still, while he and Isaac climbed the hill.
With heavy heart he journeyed on. He trusted God, his faith was strong. Isaac said, here's fire and wood, and I will walk as I know I should. But where's the lamb we're meant to bring as an offering to God our King?
My son, the Lord himself will show what sacrifice this hill must know.
They reached the top, no ram in sight. The air grew still as faith held tight.
Isaac yielded, calm, resigned, a willing heart, a trusting mind.
Abraham raised the knife above, when heaven cried a shout of love. On Moriah's height where sorrows climb, the Lord will act in his own time. Though hearts may break and fires may rise, the Lord himself, he will provide.
Abraham, don't harm your son. Your faith is seen, the test is done.
A ram was caught within the thorns, a living gift where death was sworn. The trembling hands let fall the blade, for God himself the ransom paid. Your word, O Lord, stands strong and sure, your promise wide, your mercy pure. My seed shall rise like stars above, your blessing poured in faithful love.
He named the place for all to see, The Lord provides, He hears the plea.
Where is the lamb the child cried? On Moriah's hill the Lord replied. And ages later near that place, God gave His Son for Adam's race. Yes, ages later near that place, God gave His Son for Adam's race. On Moriah's hill where fear had climbed, provision at appointed time. The God who tests, the God who spares, the God who hears His children's prayers.
In Hebron's land where oaks grow tall, a hush fell over Abraham's hall. For Sarah's breath at last grew still, her laughter gone from Mamre's hill. He knelt beside the one he loved, a broken heart yet tender moved. He wept and mourned his lifelong friend, the mother of the promised end.
Then Abraham arose from grief's embrace to seek for her among the Hittites dwelling near. He spoke with honor calm and clear. Let Sarah rest within your land, a tomb secured by rightful hand. I am a foreigner among you still. Grant me a field upon your hill.
He would not take what cost him naught. In faith he rose, in truth he sought a place to lay his bride to sleep, where God's own promise he would keep. The Hittites spoke with gracious word, you are a prince of God, they stirred. Choose any tomb within our ground, no man will turn your dead one down.
But Abraham named a field he knew, where Ephron's cave lay still and true. Let
just made for his loved one there.
He would not take what cost him naught.
In faith he rose, in truth he sought
A place to lay his bride to sleep,
where God's own promise he would keep.
so Machpelah, with oak trees near, became a ground both loved and dear, a field, a cave by covenant claimed, by Abraham and Ephron named. There Sarah lay in quiet grace, the first to rest in God's promised place, a seed of hope beneath the stone, a whisper of the land now own.
In Hebron's shade her body lies, a life of faith before God's eyes. And still the cave of Machpelah stands, the first place bought by trusting hands.
Now Abraham grew old in years, but trusted God despite his fears. With Isaac named as promised heir, the future weighed upon his prayer.
He called his servant, trusted tribe, and made him swear there at his side. Place your hand beneath my thigh, swear by the Lord who rules the sky.
By God's own hand you'll seek my son, a wife from kin where I came from.
The servant asked with cautious fear,
What if she will not follow here?
if she will come, the oath stands true.
If not, you're free, your task is through.
The servant bowed, the vow was sealed.
A promise sworn, a future healed.
The house of God is known above by open hands that give in love. The stranger fed, the weary seen, a welcome offered in between, where mercy moves at God's command. His promise walks across the land.
So to the well at evening's fall, the servant came with camels all. Through Mesopotamian roads he trod, to Nahor's city led by God.
10 weary beasts, the journey long, their thirst a test of right and wrong. He bowed beneath the open sky and prayed a prayer both soft and shy.
Let her who offers drink to me, give water freely, willingly.
And if she draws from my camel
be sign you've chosen true.
He barely spoke his prayer that day.
When Rebecca came along the way,
A virgin young, untouched and fair, with pitcher set to draw from there. The house of God is known above by open hands that give in love. The stranger fed the weary seen, a welcome offered in between, where mercy moves at God's command. His promise walks across the land.
she drew the water swift and kind, no hint of burden on her mind. She gave him drink, then turned again, and drew for all his camels 10.
She ran and served without a pause, unknowing she fulfilled God's laws.
The servant watched in silent awe. The God of Abraham he saw.
He bowed his head and blessed the Lord, for truth had matched the vow he swore.
He asked her name, her house, her kin, and saw God's mercy closing in.
She spoke her line, her father's stead.
Bethuel, Milcah's son, she said.
He asked her then with humble plea, is there a place to lodge for me? The house of God is known above by open doors and care thereof. The cup extended, freely shared, a weary stranger welcome there, where kindness flows and truth abides. The living promise still resides.
He told the tale from start to end of Abraham, his Lord and friend, how God had led him all his days, how prayer was met in perfect ways.
They listened well, then answered clear, this thing is from the Lord we hear.
Rebecca spoke with steady breath. I'll go, she said, embracing faith.
At dusk as Isaac walked the field, he saw her coming, prayers revealed.
Rebecca knelt, veiled, gentle, fair, a gift of God beyond compare.
He took her in his mother's tent, and grief gave way to heaven sent. The Lord restored his broken heart through faithful love, a covenant start. The house of God is known above by open doors and care thereof. The cup extended, freely shared, a weary stranger welcome there, where kindness flows and truth abides. The living promise still resides. The wind blew softly up the rise from Salem, And Abraham stood upon the brow of the hill. His heart was quiet now, not because all had been answered, but because the journey had been faithful. He had come far, farther than he ever imagined. When he first left his father's house, with nothing but a voice and a promise, he remembered his father, his brothers, his city left behind. The vast valley of the Jordan stretched before him, and his heart trembled as he recalled how he and Sarah had once stood there together, seen it for the first time. And yet even now there were unanswered questions, questions of the heart, names that still ached when spoken. Lot, his nephew, forever lost to history. Ishmael, the child of his error, the barb of his soul, lifting his eyes toward heaven. The old man whispered, if now I have found favor in your sight, O Lord, let me know the end from the beginning. Open my aged eyes to your purpose, let it be made clear. And the Spirit of the Lord answered him, Abraham. Turning anxiously, the man cried, Lord, here am I. Come up, friend Abraham, father of the faithful, father of a multitude. Come up and I will show you great things beyond your dreams. Compelled by an unseen hand, Abraham climbed to the pinnacle of the hill. He saw no one, yet he was not alone. And the Lord said, be patient a little longer. I will give wisdom to the humble of heart. Hold fast to the hand that leads you, and look upon the city. And Abraham saw, he saw nations streaming like waves of the sea, countless and unnamed, pouring through the gates of Salem, a city yet to be called Jerusalem, the city of peace. The lowly were lifted up,
his eyes were drawn to a solitary figure on a distant hill. A man unadorned, clothed in simple wool, yet to whom all nations now gave obedience. And Abraham recognized the mountain. Scenes of Isaac carrying the wood flashed before him. Tears flowed freely as the pieces fell into place. The mountain of sacrifice, he whispered, I see my Lord. And remembering his words to Isaac long ago, he breathed, God will indeed provide himself a lamb. The friend of God stood then at the end of his journey. The final shore was in sight. My wandering is over, he said softly. How long have I sought for the end of my journey? By faith have I wandered in the land of promise, as in a strange country. But I have found a city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. I have seen the King, and let it be said of Abraham, when he saw his day, he rejoiced and was glad. The wind blew softly up the rise from Salem, and Abraham stood upon the brow of the hill. His heart was quiet now, not because all had been answered, but because the journey had been faithful. He had come far, farther than he ever imagined, when he first left his father's house, with nothing but a voice and a promise. He remembered his father, his brothers, his city left behind. The vast valley of the Jordan stretched before him, and his heart trembled as he recalled how he and Sarah had once stood there together, seen it for the first time. And yet even now there were unanswered questions, questions of the heart. Nay, Abraham. Turning anxiously, the man cried, Lord, here am I. Come up, friend Abraham, father of the faithful, father of a multitude. Come up and I will show you great things beyond your dreams. Compelled by an unseen hand, Abraham climbed to the pinnacle of the hill. He saw no one, yet he was not alone. And the Lord said, be patient a little longer. I will give wisdom to the humble of heart. Hold fast to the hand that leads you, and look upon the city. And Abraham saw, he saw nations streaming like waves of the sea, countless and unnamed, pouring through the gates of Salem, a city yet to be called Jerusalem, the city of peace. The lowly were lifted up, the homeless ceased their wanderings, the crippled rose to walk, the sick were healed, the hungry were fed, the broken-hearted laughed again. The city expanded, its walls and towers gleaming, stretching from horizon to horizon. And Abraham saw its keepers, guardians of its gates, and knew they were his descendants, children of the miracle, born not of human strength, but of promise. Then his eyes were drawn to a solitary figure on a distant hill, a man unadorned, clothed in simple wool, yet to whom all nations now gave obedience. And Abraham recognized the mountain. Scenes of Isaac carrying the wood flashed before him. Tears flowed freely as the pieces fell into place. The mountain of sacrifice, he whispered, I see my Lord. And remembering his words to Isaac long ago, he breathed, God will indeed provide himself a lamb friend of God stood then at the end of his journey. The final shore was in sight. My wandering is over, he said softly. How long have I sought for the end of my journey? By faith have I wandered in the land of promise, as in a strange country. But I have found a city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. I have seen the King, and let it be said of Abraham, when he saw his day, he rejoiced and was glad.